All right, so our goal for this little lesson here is to be able to program a calculator to perform operations on stored values using conditional statements, these if-then statements. Because the conditional statements within a program gives the calculator a way to be able to test certain things, and if it meets the criteria and the hypothesis, the if part of your condition, then the calculator will perform some sort of task. Okay, so whenever you're building your programs, I want you to keep these three things in mind. You want to get, first of all, a user input. They may be giving you a particular number. You tell them, hey, enter in an integer or enter in 3 grades, something like that. I got to get an input from the user. All right, now that I have the input from the user, I need to do something with it. I'm going to perform some sort of calculation on their input. And then once I've done that calculation, I need to make sure that I output it to the home screen so they can see whatever, whatever the result of our calculations were. Okay, so keep those 3 tasks in mind whenever you're building your program. I need to get something from the user, I'm going to do something with their input, and then I'm going to output my final answer back on the home screen. So let's test this out with something very simple. And this first program has nothing to do with conditional statements just yet. It's just the area of a circle, which is super easy. What is the formula for the area of a circle? If you've been in a geometry class for more than about 3 seconds, you probably remember that it's pi r squared. So for this formula, you need a radius length. You plug in the radius length, square it, multiply it times pi, and then it's going to calculate the area of that circle for you, right? Very easy, very straightforward. Okay, so we're going to have our calculator do this for us, but let's look at some things on the calculator first, okay? I'm going to pull this over and switch over to the camera view so you can see my calculator screen. All right, so let's say, for example, I'm going to calculate the area of a circle with a radius of 10, right? So what I would do is I would plug in a pi, and then I would multiply it times 10, and I would square it, right? So pi times 10 squared, and I get 314-ish for the area of that circle. Very straightforward. Now, let's say, though, that I want to be able to change this 10. Instead of having to go up here every single time and change that 10 squared to some other number, I can use a variable, and I can store the number in the calculator as a particular letter. And you have access to all of these letters that are on here in green. So this is radius, so it kind of makes sense to store it as R. And this is the way you do it. You type the number in first, so I'm going to type in 10, and I'm going to store it, S-T-O with a little arrow here. I'm going to store it, it's right above the on, and it puts an arrow on the home screen here. And then I choose a letter to store it in. If I want to use a letter, I have to hit alpha, and then I'm going to try my best to find the letter R. There it is. R. And then I hit enter. And now every single time I type in the letter R, it's going to be 10. So watch, I'll demonstrate. There it is, it's 10. So now I can use that within a formula. I can go pi R and then square it. And there's that same exact calculation. Now the benefit of this is that now I can store a different number in for R. So let's say that I store 15 in for R. And now what it just did is it just wrote on top of the R. Think of that R as like a placeholder. First I filled that placeholder with a 10, and now I took the 10 out and I put 15 in its place. And now R is 15. And if I come back up here to this calculation, hit enter on it, and recalculate it, it now calculates the area of a circle with this new 15 in the place of R. So we're going to do all of that stuff within our first little program, okay? So let me actually do some brainstorming before I start coding the stuff inside of the calculator. So the brainstorming is this. Remember that the first phase is to get the number from the user. And to get the number from the user, first I need to tell them what it is that I'm looking for. And I'm going to do that with a display. I'm going to display, and then I want words to come up on the calculator screen, so I have to put it in quotation marks. And I might say something as simple as enter radius. And then I'm going to close the quotation marks. And all that does is just type those words across the home screen. But I haven't gotten a number from them yet. So I'm still on this user input phase. To get the number, I can do one of two things. I can either input R or I can prompt for R. Either one of those things would work. The benefit of using prompt over input is that on the home screen, this is what it would look like. It would say R equals question mark. And then the user would type in a number, hit enter, and it stores it in as R. Input, on the other hand, just has question mark equals, and then you type in your number. The benefit, like I said, for the radius one, or the prompt one, is that it tells you that it's R, and for this problem, it being radius, it kind of makes sense. Okay, so now I have the number. I choose one of these two things, not both of them, I just choose one of those things, and I have the number. Now I can do a calculation with that number, and that calculation is just exactly the calculation you would do on the calculator screen. You would take pi, and you would multiply it times R, and you would square it. You don't have to actually put the little multiplication sign in here. You can if you want to, but it understands that if you put a pi side by side with a variable, that you're supposed to multiply that. Now, if I do a calculation within a program, I need to store it as something. If I don't, I can't access it. I can't show that number on the calculator screen. I can't do something else with it. So I need to store it. And I'm calculating the area. So I'm going to store it as A. And now I've done the calculation phase. What's left is the output phase. I need to output that to the calculator screen so whoever's using my program knows what the area of that circle is. And I'm going to do it just how I started. I'm going to do it with a display. So I'm going to go disp, and in quotation marks, I'm going to tell them what I'm going to give them, which is the area of a circle. Area is, and on the same line, I'm going to separate this with a comma and put A. So what this will do is it'll display the words area is, and then after it on the next line, it'll display whatever number is stored in as A. And what number is stored in as A is this area calculation that came right before it. So let's put this into the calculator, actually code it up, and see how this all comes together and test it out. So back over here to the camera. So to start this process, we need to go to the Program button. And inside the Program button, you'll see EXEC, which is Execute, Edit. Edit allows you to change a program that you already have. Execute allows you to run a program. And then finally, over here at New, that's what we want. We want a new program. Automatically, you can see the blinking A here. This means that you're typing in the name of your program. And let's just say we call this Area. That looks good, and I hit enter on it. Every single line of code is going to be denoted or started off with a little colon here, so you know that that's a new line of code. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to do is display enter radius. Display is under the program menu. Inside of a program, when you hit the program button, now you have new menu options. The first one, CTL, is control, and look right here, you see if and then. Woo! We're going to use those eventually. If you go over to the next one, it's IO, which means input output. And number 3 is display. You can see right above it is the input and prompt, which we are eventually going to use in the same program. We want to use display. I'm going to hit enter on it. Notice where the cursor is. The cursor is one space to the right after the word display, and that indicates that the calculator wants you to type something there. If I want it in text, I need to start it off with quotation marks, which are right above the plus sign. They're in green. I'm going to alpha lock this down. So you hit blue and then the green, and now it's an alpha lock. And now I can hit the quotation marks and then type in, to the best of my ability, enter radius. The space is right above the 0 key. So enter, and then type in radius. There we go. And then we want to close off those quotation marks and hit enter on it. All right, new line of text. You can see another colon there. Okay, and now I need to get the number from the user. I'm going to get that from the program menu. Scroll over to input output, and we decided we are going to do prompt instead of input because the prompt will tell us that it's R for radius. We're going to prompt, and notice again where the cursor is. There's a little space to the right of the word prompt indicating that we need to type something in there, and we're going to type the actual variable here, which was R. Hit enter. Now I have the number. I'm going to do the calculation. I'm going to do pi r squared. So pi, bring up that r again, square it, and I've done a calculation. I need to store it as something so I can access that number. So I'm going to store it as A. Hit enter. I've done the calculation phase. Now I need to just export or display my answer. And I'm going to do that one last time with a display, number 3. Again, with the quotation marks, so you need to alpha lock it down. And then start with a quotation and say something like area is space is, close the quotation marks. Now turn off alpha lock so you can get the comma. Comma is right above the 7 key right there. Comma, not a period, a comma. And then your A there. So alpha A. So it's going to display the text and the value that's stored in here as A. Just hit enter. You don't have to worry about saving the program. It auto saves as you go. And now you always want to test it out and make sure that it actually works. So let me quit out of this. I'm going to go back into the program menu, and this time we're going to execute area. Hit enter. Enter radius. Let's enter something that we know what it's going to be whenever we're all done. So what if I did 1? So if I did 1, I know that the area is going to be pi because it'd be pi times 1 squared. Hit enter, and you can see there's pi. Let's run the program again and try something else. Let's try, say, 10, like we did before. So it should square 10 multiplied times pi should be 314-ish, right? You can try something as crazy as you want to. Let's say I wanted to do, let's say the square root of 5. Close the parentheses there. It's still, let's square the square root of 5 multiplied times pi. That would be 5 times pi. There you go. All right, so there is your first programming experience. We still haven't done any conditional statements yet, but we're getting there.